Good morning, all of you.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, sir.
Okay, let's start with the next content. So this is our lecture number 7 from the unit 3. And today we are going to start with the logic and the inferences point. Now already in the first lecture also we have discussed what exactly mean by the logic and why it is important. Now even if we think about our human being, okay, when you have to take some kind of decision. Okay, suppose if I give you the example, suppose there is a exam, your exam, semester exam in the next week, and also your other friends have asked you to just let's go for the trip somewhere. So you have the multiple options here to take the decision. So you have to choose from that option whether you should go for the trip or whether you should study for your exam, which is being scheduled in the next week. So these are the multiple options you are having, okay, in your mind. And so based on the some what we can say logical, you can give some logical reason to your friend that I cannot come because you are having your exam in the next week. So this is nothing but the what we can say taking the decision out of the available options. Now you can see this example I have given you just to understand how the human being can think logically. Understood? Now we want our artificial agent should also think in using giving some logical reasons. So then and then only we can say the it as a artificial human. Even also if you take the example of some to understand the concept of what exactly mean by the logic. Now suppose you used to do the program, suppose I ask you to do the program of find out the average of 10 numbers. Now you have the knowledge. What knowledge you are having? How to find the average of 10 numbers? Now you have the knowledge that you can take the 10 numbers from the user side by using some array, and then you can divide that numbers by 10 as you want to find the average of 10 numbers. That is the knowledge you are having. Understood? But how will you implement that? Okay, how will write the program for that? Understood? Using some C language or the C++ language. How will you apply your logic so that you can get the correct answer? So you apply your logic by representing your knowledge. You are getting what I'm saying? Knowledge used to be there in your brain, correct? All of you agree. Knowledge used to be there in your mind, in your brain, but when you represent, to represent that law, to represent that knowledge which you are having, there is a necessity of some logic. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
To represent that knowledge you are having, to represent that knowledge, you need some kind of what we can say the logic. So when you represent that knowledge using some logic, understood? So that is nothing but we can say the some kind of decision you have made from the knowledge you are having. Now we want that kind of we expect that kind of things from the artificial agent also. Understood? Now in the levels of knowledge based agent, in the implementation level of knowledge based agent, we have seen the 3 levels. Yes, which 3 levels of implementation of knowledge based agent we have discussed? Which are the 3 levels of implementation of knowledge based agent? Yes, whether we have studied or not.
Knowledge level, logic level,
Exactly.
and Implementation level.
Implementation level. Understood. Knowledge level मध्ये काय होतं? In the knowledge level, only the what happened in the knowledge level? We give the raw information to the that artificial agent. Understood.
Yes, sir. Yes.
What is happening in the second level?
Logic level, there are two logics are
Means
proposition
in
logic
the
and first order
in the
logic.
logic level, what we do, we have to represent that knowledge which we have given in the knowledge level using some logical form. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Just like I previously give you the example of doing the program finding the
Bridge
average of some numbers, finding the
and bridge
average.
between A and B, sir.
Yeah, now today only I give you the example finding the average of 10 numbers. So the knowledge that you are having in your mind, that is nothing but the we can call as a raw information. Yes or no?
Sir.
And when you use the C language and you apply some logic and do the program, you are representing your knowledge in some another form. When you write the program by using your knowledge, yes, you are representing your knowledge related with the finding the sum of 10 numbers. You are representing that knowledge in some programmatic form by applying some logic. Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
That is nothing but your logical level there. And when you execute
Yes, sir.
your program and you get the output, that is nothing but your implementation level. Correct?
Implementation. Yes, sir.
So same thing we can apply here. Same thing is same analogy is here in case of creation of the artificial agent also. If you want to create the artificial agent, there are the three levels: knowledge level, logic level, and the implementation level. So in the knowledge level, we just give the raw information to that agent. In the logical level, we have to apply some logical form. We have to apply some syntax and semantics related with the logics, and we have to represent that knowledge of first level so that our agent can understand what we are asking that agent to do. Understood? And that is nothing but what you can say the logic is. So in the first lecture also I have given you the example of what exactly mean by the logic. I have given an example of if you throw the stone in the air, that stone will always fall on the ground. What is the reason behind that?
Gravity.
Reason behind that is nothing but the gravity. Understood? So gravity is nothing
Yes,
but
sir.
some kind of proof or the validation. Proof or the validation behind the that your stone will always fall on the ground. Understood? So the same thing I have mentioned here related with the if you go to the according to the definition as a word to word definition of the logic, here I have mentioned logic can be defined as a the proof or validation behind any reasons provided. Now, in case of that stone thrown in the air and it will fall on the ground, reason behind that is nothing but what? Or proof behind that, or validation behind that is what? Because of the law of the gravity. Understood?
Gravity.
So, in order for the human beings to think, for the human beings to take the decision, there used to be some kind of logical thinking. All of you are agreeing?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
And when human being can think logically, when he has some kind of knowledge. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That is we have to do. We just don't have to give some knowledge to the agent, but we have to represent that knowledge in some logical form. All of you are getting?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
to
sir.
represent that particular knowledge in the logical form, we have to take the help of different kind of formal language in the form of some formal logic. Understood? So that is nothing but our today's point of discussion, that we are going to discuss various forms of the logic, how that knowledge or the information in the first level of the implementation of knowledge based agent can be represented with the help of some logic. Okay. Now there comes the another point, that is what the inference. What exactly mean by the inference? Okay, now in case of the artificial intelligence, we want or we need the our intelligent agent to create some new logic from some old logic, or to create some new information from some old information. In the sense what we want, our agent should create some conclusion from some given facts. Okay, creating the new logic from the old logic is nothing but creating some conclusion from the old facts. Is it right? Creating
Yes, sir.
the new logic from some old logic is nothing but the creating some conclusion from the existing facts. Understood? That is nothing but the called as the inference. Understood? Creating some conclusion
Yes, sir.
from some existing information, it is but the called as a inference.
Inference.
Let's take here the example. Suppose here I have written the first fact, that is I called as a minor premise. I will tell you the, what do you mean by the premise. Okay, first fact or the minor premise I have written here, every mammal has a spine. Second premise I have written here, dog is a mammal. Now I hope you are getting the meaning of mammal and the spine. If not, then let me tell you. What do you mean by the mammal? Yes, mammal means what? Are the human beings are the mammal or not? That's the reason you are lacking in your English communication. You don't have the vocabulary skill, vocabulary power. मॅमल म्हणजे काय? सस्तन प्राणी. ऐकला का कधी वर्ड?
Yes, sir.
आता सस्तन प्राणी म्हणजे काय ते तुम्ही बघा. अँड स्पाइन मीन्स व्हॉट? स्पाइन्स मीन्स पाठीचा कणा. मग आता तरी सांगा, ह्युमन बीइंग्स आर मॅमल्स और नॉट?
Yes, sir. Mammals.
So first fact I have written, every mammal has a spine. Dog is a mammal. Now can you tell me what kind of conclusion you can make from these two statements? Can we make any conclusion from these two statements?
Yes, sir.
What?
Dog has spine.
I have
Dog
written
has
there.
spine.
Dog has a spine.
Spine.
But here, this is the thing I am telling you in the first statement, creating the new logic from the old logic, or creating the new evidence from the old evidence. What was the old evidence here? Every mammal has a spine and a dog is a mammal. This is nothing but the old evidence or the old logic. From this, when you create some new logic, or when you create some new evidence, what new logic you have created? Dog has a
spine.
And that is called as
Spine.
this concept is called as the inference. Got the point of inference?
Yes.
Same thing
Yes,
I have
sir.
written here, that I have explained you with the example here. In the artificial intelligence, we need the intelligent agent. What kind of agent we need? Which can create the new logic from the old logic. And so generating conclusion from that evidence, or generating a conclusion from that old logic or the old fact, is considered as a inference. Understood the concept of inference?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let me tell you here only what exactly I mean by the premise. Premise in the sense the proposition. Premise in the sense the proposition. What do you mean by the proposition then? Proposition म्हणजे काय? In English, what do you mean by the proposition?
Statement.
Some kind of statements. Understood. Now in detail we see about that. Okay, now as we are discussing, whatever the knowledge is there in your mind, it has to be represented in some logical form. Now, as we are discussing the levels of implementation of KBA, knowledge-based agent, in the first level of that implementation of KBA, we have some raw discrete information which is present in the knowledge level. Now this raw information has to be represented in some formal language. This raw information has to be encoded, or this raw information has to be converted into some formal language. using some formal language, and we have the way of representation of that raw information into the some formal language with the help of the formal logic. And in order to do that, we have the two kinds of formal logics are there: proposition logic and the first order logic. So using this proposition logic and the first order logic at the logical level, encoding of the knowledge into the logical sentence happens. Now, how actually it happens? What are its advantages, disadvantages of the proposition logic? What are the advantages of the first order logic, etc., etc.? That is nothing but our next part to be get studied. So formal logic is nothing but the consist of these two kinds of logics: the proposition logic and the first order logic. So what exactly, if you want to define the formal logic technically, so you can define the formal logic. It is nothing but the abstract study of the proposition, statements, or some assertively used sentences. Now, what exactly mean by the proposition then? So propositions are not all the statements cannot be from the propositions, but all the propositions can be the sentences. You might not getting the meaning of this. I will prove that. So proposition is always considered as some declarative sentence or the assertive sentence or the statements, which can be always true or which can be always false, but they cannot be always same. Means any proposition, if you calling certain statement or if you calling certain sentence as a proposition, the conclusion from that sentence can always be true, or conclusion from that sentence can't always be false, but it cannot be at the same time true, or it cannot be at the same time false. You are getting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For example, now which kind of sentence or which kind of statement then we can call the proposition? Now, if I write here the sentence or the statement, Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of India. Now, if he is the Prime Minister, then it is true. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
If he is not, then it is false. But it cannot be true. It cannot be same at the. It cannot be true or false at the same time. Is it possible?
No.
No. So that kind of sentence or statement is called as the propositions. Now, then what is the difference between the proposition and other kind of sentences? That part we have to study further. Okay, as I said, what statement I made, every proposition can be a sentence, but every sentence cannot be a proposition. Okay. Now, for example, as I said, in the formal logic is nothing but the study or representation of different kind of proposition, statement, or sentences, or assertively used sentences. Then we have to then see what exactly mean by the other kind of sentences. For example, sentence can be assertive, sentence can be imperative, or sentences can be the interrogative. Okay, you can also call the assertive sentence as a declarative sentence also. Okay. Now, for example, if I said the statements open the door, now what kind of sentence is this? Is this the declarative sentence or the assertive sentence, or it is the imperative sentence? Imperative म्हणजे काय? Imperative म्हणजे काय मराठीमध्ये?
सर इम्पेरेटिव्ह सेंटेन्स म्हणजे त्याच्यामध्ये काही ऑर्डर दिली जाते
आज्ञा. ओके, आज्ञाधारक काहीतरी आहे ते. ओके. सो imperative in the sense काहीतरी त्याच्यामध्ये आज्ञा दिली जाते, ऑर्डर दिली जाते. तो open the door. Then, do you know me? It is what kind of sentence is this? The question is there. Interrogative. Prashnarthi.
Yes.
Prashnarthi. Understood. So, now here we cannot say, okay, now these are not the proposition, but these are the sentences. What we are saying, these are not the proposition, but these are the sentences. Understood? And that is the reason I am saying every proposition can be a sentence, but every sentence cannot be a proposition. For example, lastly, I given the example, Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of India. It is a declarative sentence, or it is the assertive sentence. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what you have to keep in mind here, only the declarative sentences or only the assertive sentences are considered to be the propositions.
Proposition.
Okay, you can note down this point. What? Not every sentence is considered as a proposition, but which sentences? Assertive or
Declarative and
declarative
assert-
sentence are
Declarative.
considered to be the proposition. Other like the imperative,
Proposition.
interrogative. I have not also taken the example of exclamatory sentences also. These sentences are not being come under the category of the propositions.
Propositions.
Okay. Now let's see further. Here only I have mentioned the same thing that we are discussing, declarative or assertive sentence. Most of the sentences of English language are the assertive sentences which declare or assert a statement, feeling, opinion, incident, event, history, anything is called as the assertive or the declarative sentence. These all the kind of things comes under the which kind of sentence? Assertive or the declarative sentence. And this kind of sentence always end with the dot, which is also being referred as a period. All the kinds of assertive or the declarative sentence always being end with the dot. So assertive sentence can be either affirmative or it can be a negative. What do you mean by this? Assertive sentence can be a affirmative or the negative.
Affirmative means होकारार्थक आणि
Positive
negative
or
means
the negative. Just like we have discussed, proposition can always be false or it can be always be true. Correct? Proposition can always be false or it can always be a true.
Yes, sir.
The same thing I have mentioned, the proposition, as I said, the assertive sentence or the declarative sentence are called the proposition. So here I have mentioned the assertive sentence can either be affirmative or the negative. It's been same that proposition can always be a positive or it always can be a negative. What the meaning?
Yes, sir.
Here another examples of the proposition I have mentioned. Alex is a good baseball player. Now he can be or he cannot be. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Alex is a good baseball player. हे ट्रू असू शकतं आणि false पण असू शकतं, पण at the same time it can be a true and false. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So that is the proposition. Another example also given. He plays for the Rockers Club. He plays for the Rockers Club. He might be playing, he might not be playing. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So these kind of sentences are the come under the category of the what we can say the propositions. Okay, clear? The point of proposition is clear.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And now as we are discussing, we have to represent the knowledge in some logical form, and to represent that we have the two forms of the formal logic. One is the proposition logic and another is the first order logic. First we go for the in details about the proposition logic, and then we'll see about the these second kind of logic, that is the first order logic. Okay, now some basic facts or the some introductory point about the proposition logic. Here you can see. So in the proposition logic, now it is straightforward. In the proposition logic, only which kind of sentence we can handle?
Assertive.
Only the assertive or the declarative sentence.
Declarative sentence.
Only the sentence which is having the meaning as only true or false. Only that kind of sentences can be handled with the help of the proposition logic. So that is the reason here I have mentioned the proposition logic is the analytical statements. Analytical sentence statement म्हणजे काय की त्याच्यावरून आपण काहीतरी अनालिसिस करू शकतो की काय ही बरोबर आहे का चूक आहे, whether it is a correct or whether it is a wrong. That is the reason here it is being said the proposition logic is the analytical statement which is either true or which is false. Okay, so it is basically a technique that represents the knowledge in the logical and some mathematical form. How we will see that next. So there are also the two types of the proposition logic. One is the atomic proposition and another is the compound proposition. We will see in that details in further part of this. So proposition logic is the simple form and powerful form of the logic where all the statements are made by the proposition. So propositions is generally considered as a declarative kind of sentence or the statements which can be either true or which can be either false. Let's see some another facts about the proposition logic. So here you can see this is a kind of logic which is also called as the Boolean logic also. This is important. This logic is also called as what kind of logic? Boolean logic. Why it is called as the Boolean logic?
Because Boolean have only two parameter.
Yeah,
zero.
and proposition logic also works in that way only. It can be always true or it
Yes.
can be always false. So here
False.
if it is false 0, it is true 1. That's why it is being
One.
also referred as a Boolean logic.
Yeah.
So in the propositional logic, we use the different kind of symbolic variable to represent the logic, and we can use any symbol representing the proposition. Symbols like the capital letters from the A to Z. Only some I have mentioned here, but we can use the capital letter from the A to the Z. Proposition can either be true or false. It cannot be both at the same time. Proposition logic consists of the object, relation, function, and most importantly, various kind of logical connectives. Logical connective in the sense you must be knowing and, or, not, like these kind of things are come under the category of logical connectives. And these logical connectives are also called as the logical operators. If you just have some basic logic of the discrete mathematics, then you will understand this part very easily. Okay, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So-
let's see some further things. In the proposition logic, the proposition and connectives are the basic main elements of the proposition logic. Okay, connectives are said to be as a logical operator which connect the two different kind of sentences. Propositional formula which is always true is called as the tautology. This is important. What? The proposition formula which is always true is called as what? The tautology.
Tautology.
And this kind of sentence is called as the valid sentences. The proposition formula which always false is called as the contradiction. You must have heard about this kind of terms, yes or no?
Contradiction.
Yes.
Yes.
Proposition
Yes.
formula which always false is called as the contradiction, and which is always true is called as the
Tautology.
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 Statements which are questions, commands are not the proposition, such as where is the Sachin,
Yes, yes.
how are you, what is your name. These are not the propositions, as already we have discussed. Let's see some other more examples related with the proposition. For example, if there is a mathematical sentence 7 plus 4, this is also the proposition. It can be a true or it can be a false. At this stage it is false. Apples are black. This is also the proposition. It can be a true, it can be false. Narendra Modi is the president of India. This is also a proposition. 2 and 2 makes the 5. This is also proposition. Delhi is in India. This is also the proposition. So here all these statements are considered as a proposition. This is because they are all either true or they are either false, but not both at the time. Let's see further. Now let's focus on the types of the proposition logic. Okay, in that we have the two types.
Atomic proposition.
One is the
And compound proposition.
atomic proposition, and second is the
Compound
compound
proposition.
proposition.
Compound proposition.
Now first, as atomic propositions are nothing but the simple proposition. It is also called as a simple proposition, and it consists of the single proposition symbols. These are the sentences which must be either true or false. Now atomic in the sense the single propositions. Okay, what do you mean by the single? We will understand this in the example. For example, 2 plus 2 is the 4. And now it is the atomic proposition, and it is the true fact. The sun is cold. This is also the single proposition, and it is
Yes, sir.
it is a false fact.
False.
तर atomic
Yes.
म्हणजे काय कन्सिडर करायचं की सिंगल प्रोपोजिशन आहे. दॅट इज द मिनिंग ऑफ atomic proposition. आता पुढचं घेतल्यानंतर तुमच्या लक्षात येईल की व्हॉट आय एम सेइंग. ओके. Now second category is compound proposition.
Proposition.
So compound proposition are constructed by combining simple or atomic proposition using some parentheses or using some logical connectives. Now see here, what example is this? It is raining today and street is wet. Now, if you just consider this first statement only, forget about this second, then it is atomic proposition, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
पण
Single
हे
sir.
याला जर तुम्ही दुसरी एक स्टेटमेंट कनेक्ट केली, काय, इट इज रेनिंग टुडे अँड street is wet, then it becomes what kind of proposition? Compound
Compound
proposition.
proposition.
Now got the difference between these two?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And connect झालंय sir.
That is the reason it is called as the compound proposition. Okay.
Proposition.
Then second we have the Ankit is a doctor and his clinic is in the Mumbai. This is also the combining of two atomic proposition together. First is this one and second is this one. So that is nothing but the two important types of the what we can say the proposition logic. One is the atomic proposition, which only consider the single proposition, or we can say it is only considered the single sentence. Or
Yes.
another category is the compound proposition, which consider the more than one proposition or more than one sentence combined together. Hello, yes, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's see the last point in this, then remaining point will continue tomorrow. So next point we must discuss, that is the question being always asked here, the 2 marks, syntax and the semantics in case of the proposition logic. So syntax of the proposition logic define the what kind of allowable sentence for the knowledge representation. की knowledge आपल्याला आपण proposition logic यूज करून काय करणार आहे, आपण knowledge represent करणार. You are getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
तर ते knowledge represent, जसं तुम्ही C लँग्वेज यूज करून काय करता, तुम्ही काहीतरी knowledge represent करता.
Yes, sir.
मग ते करण्यासाठी तुम्ही कसा पण प्रोग्राम लिहिला तर चालेल का?
नाही.
You are using some syntax and some semantics there.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Similarly here, if you want to represent some knowledge using the proposition logic, then you have to use some syntax and the semantics. Okay. So here, simple syntax are there. Proposition symbols are denoted with some capital letters that already I told you, like from A to Z. Proposition logic constant have the truth value generally considered as a 0 as a false, 1 as a true. Then proposition logic make the use of wrapping parentheses while writing the atomic sentences. Parentheses use केले जातात like this. Understood? And these are only some general syntax and the semantics when you are representing the knowledge utilizing the proposition logic. Okay, all of you understood this part?
Yes, sir.
Okay, remaining
Yes, sir.
part will continue tomorrow. So that's it from the today's lecture. Thank you all of you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
Thank you.
Okay, related with the experiments,
Yes, sir.
how many experiments I have given you?
Two.
Two, which are
First train queue and second is chatbot.
chatbot से दिला क्या? ठीक है. All of you are writing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
I will give you the remaining also. So you just go on completing that and try to understand if you are getting. Otherwise, depends on the situation. I will try to give you the experimental demo of that also. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.